Some doctors fear a program designed to help them deal with mental health problems and substance abuse issues is actually destroying their careers. And in one case, the controversial program allegedly drove a physician to suicide.
For Karen Madej, the words are painful.
This is just the end of the line for my particular train. Earth wasn't a great place for me. We'll see what else is out there.
They belong to her son, Dr. Greg Madej, a resident at Barnes Jewish Hospital that many describe as bright, talented, and kind.
That "I love you" line stays with me.
But Greg had a problem: alcoholism, something he'd been battling since medical school. And now he'd had a relapse, so he called Missouri's PHP for help.
And I think all they needed to do was say, get yourself to a place of safety. You know, we're behind you.
But Karen says that didn't happen. And hours later, Greg was dead. PHP, it stands for Physician Health Program, and nearly every state has one. It started back in the 80s as a way for doctors to help colleagues who were struggling with addiction or mental health issues. But that was then. Many in the medical industry say now big money is involved. And along with a lack of regulation, it turns these programs into something doctors fear.
The physician is basically at the mercy of the PHP.
Dr. Wesley Boyd of Harvard University should know. He used to work for a state PHP.
There's no one outside the programs looking at them.
And that can lead to problems, says Boyd. For example, he says when a PHP gets a tip about a supposed problem doctor, there is usually no way for a physician to appeal or dispute it. Instead, they must go to a preferred treatment center that will examine them and decide if they have an issue. But guess what? Boyd says many of the centers are for-profit, and that can sometimes lead to a strange result.
Even in cases where there was no substance dependence, these evaluation centers come back and say, you need to stay for 30 or 90 days of treatment.
Take the case of Dr. Gary Hammond. He says his hospital supervisors noticed how tired he was.
They asked, is this a drug problem? Are you sure you're not using drugs?
The real problem, says Gary, he had a newborn at home, and he also had a sleep disorder caused by a brain injury he got while serving his country overseas.
I could not understand how they could say, "Why are you tired?"
But the next thing he knew, he got a call from the Missouri PHP. They wanted him to fly to an out-of-state recovery center to be checked out. And if he didn't do it, colleagues told him he could lose his license.
And that scared the hell out of me.
So he went.
They just didn't believe anything that I said.
And after 5 days, the center diagnosed him with, quote, provisional alcohol use disorder, something Gary says is ridiculous.
They hadn't even talked to my wife to see if I drink.
Their recommendation, that he enter their 30-day inpatient treatment program. For Boyd, it's one more reason why he says,
and it is very hard not to think financial motivation were behind the misdiagnoses.
But there's another problem, which may have led to the death of Greg Madej. His mother says that night, Greg knew he needed help, but he was also about to start a new job here in St. Louis, something he didn't want to lose. So he wanted to go to a recovery center located in St. Louis.
Stay in St. Louis, begin his oncology fellowship. He'd be able to do outpatient treatment at the program.
But when Greg called the Missouri PHP, the answer was no. Karen says he had to go to one of their preferred centers, all of which were out of state. And if he didn't,
they were going to report him to the medical board. I think he thought there was no way out.
That night, Greg filled a bath with water, got in, and cut his wrists with a scalpel. In the end, the many doctors we spoke with claim that now, even if a physician has a serious problem, the last thing most of them will do is contact their local PHP. And that could put you at risk.
The chance that you're going to get a doctor who shouldn't be taking care of patients that day, you won't even be able to know what the chance is that that'll happen because nobody will say anything.
And that's a very tragic story that's generated quite the social media reaction. Here's PJ Randalla with a follow-up.
We requested an on-camera interview with the Missouri PHP. We even showed up outside of the executive director's home, but they refused to answer any of our questions about how their program is supposed to work. We did talk to an industry group known as the National Federation of State PHPs. They sent us a 2-paragraph statement that they asked be used in full. You'll find that on our website, 11alive.com. For The Reveal, I'm PJ Randhawa.